Okay, we do the first Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Nesanel, Gantz.
Shalom Aleichem, Avrumi gross.
Shalom Aleichem, Shaya gross.
How many kids do you have in your family before we start? Obviously, the father, two sons. Baruch Hashem, very good. Usually, by the way, when someone says Baruch Hashem, it's 10 plus, FYI. That is the way it works. Okay, so I see Prime Lumber Home Center. So tell me about your company. What do you guys do?
We are third generation lumberyard. My father was in the business. I'm in the business, and now my children are in the business with us. Baruch Hashem.
I've never heard somebody say, I like that, third generation, and when they're in the middle one. She's like, I'm a third generation because my Zayda was in the business. But the fact that you're saying that you're already putting the kids in the business is very fascinating. Where is your company located?
Located on 14th Street, right off Eastern Parkway. It's called the East New York section of Brooklyn, right at the issue of Queens and Bushwick in Brooklyn.
How many people work in your company today?
Not enough. I'm looking for more people, actually.
Sorry,
anybody that needs
I do too many jobs already.
We just hired another. We added the last 2 years. We added between 10 and 20% more.
How many people work in your company today?
Almost approximately 50 people.
Okay, and what is it you do? Essentially, you provide lumber, for lack of a better term, right? But there's clearly more to that.
It's called building materials. It's not lumber. Lumber is in the olden days when people built the house.
They thought wood, right?
I used to, when I go to Simcha, people tell me that when they built their house, they bought lumber from my grandfather. Today, Baruch Hashem, Klal Yisrael grew. The development is on a scale not seen, and we've never seen such a thing. It's more that we're building the mega projects in Brooklyn and Manhattan, the superstructure buildings. It's more metal framing, interior, exterior, the light gauge buildings. That's really the business today.
So talk about, so what do you provide? So
we provide anything from structural material, lumber, metal, sheetrock, anything that you can supply these big. When you see a stupid structure, when you drive by the Interborough Parkway or any type of a parkway that you see these big buildings in the city going up, that's what we provide.
How many other kids from the family work in the company besides you two?
I only have 2 boys.
You have 2 boys, okay.
I have girls, but the 2 boys.
And no son-in-laws yet?
I have son-in-laws.
They work in the company?
They work in the company because they're learning. So I have them at the finance.
They're the real
poinum.
I love that.
They're the real poinum.
What are your official roles in the company besides you're the boss? So what's your role?
My position is the chief operating officer. Basically, I run the day-to-day operations in the company, and I oversee.
What's your first name?
Avrumi.
Avrumi. And you?
And my name is Shaya.
You're the shy guy.
What?
You're the shy guy.
No, it just takes him 5 minutes.
Kishmoy Kenhu, yeah?
I'm the buyer for the company as well as inside sales for the company.
What does inside sales mean?
Which means writing up orders, following up on orders, making sure orders go out.
Running daily operations.
So let me ask you a question. You have a company that's clearly around for many years. You said your father started the business, and at the time, I'm assuming there's more lumber. In today's world, where you're literally competing with the internet, with different people doing marketing, right? How are you, besides for maintaining your old clients, how are you trying to get new people?
How am I trying to get new people?
It's a double questions. How are you keeping your old clients? How are you getting them?
It's a moeilijke kasha. You know why?
Yeah, tell you why.
Because how do I keep them? I have to have customers we supply them, like I deliver within a 3-hour notice, within a 3-hour frame of a notice of a delivery. We have enough equipment to supply every day as many jobs.
Is that a rarity? Do you find you answer that? Is that not the case in New York? Is that in that many companies?
So you asked 2 questions. I find like this is that what you were saying with the internet, the only type of business industry that the internet doesn't compete with is the building materials industry.
Explain.
Because a hammer, hardware you can buy on Amazon. You cannot buy a 40-foot piece of metal on Amazon. It doesn't work. You need to have the equipment, you need to have the wherewithal to deliver it, and you need to have the presence in New York to deliver it.
And it works with specs, it works with design, it works with everything else.
So at the same time as well.
So that's answering the first question. How about the second question? How do you get new people? Are you going to answer that, Shaya? Because you're a sales guy.
How do you get new people? First of all, your name goes out there on the street. I mean, there isn't a job site there's many people that keep on calling us. They're like, oh my gosh, we saw your trucks. We just added just recently in the past year 2 pieces of equipment. Each of it was roughly about $500,000 each of types of cranes. So when you have such equipment that's going out and people notice you and your name goes out there, there's a project that we're delivering now on. It's actually quite a large project. it's a superstructure that's going up, and the person that's in charge, for some reason, had to go place an order elsewhere. And he was telling me how he's like dreading it, just simply because the communication is so easy, and just
So you could, in this business, is that what you're saying? It's really word of mouth type of business in a certain sense. Like you can't market it to a degree. Is that what you're saying?
You could market it. Obviously, you could market it, but we market it in a certain way that we have the customers locked in. That we give them the state-of-the-art equipment to be able to deliver it. We give them the capacity to send an order over the weekend on a Sunday, and it gets a Monday at 6 o'clock in the morning, gets his delivery. Shaya makes sure that it's delivered. Avrumi makes sure that the bills are getting paid, that he's collecting the money. So it's a real teamwork.
So let me ask you a question. How was it when you took over the business from your father? Was that a hard transition?
No, not at all. I just had to stay focused and pay attention, and I have an end goal.
Is your father still around?
No.
When was he nifter, your father?
My father was nifter about 8 years ago.
Oh, wow. How old was he?
Young man, 73 years old.
That's a young guy. Did you work together with him in the business for a while?
Yes, I worked with my father for a while.
So it's always an interesting question. You work in a family business, right? Like if your employee messes up, so you tell them off, and then after work you go right there. You tell off these employees, they're your kids, right? So how do you separate the business? Well,
you're like my right hand and my left hand. You can't scream at your right hand if you slam the door and when you walk through the door.
It is a hard balance. It is a hard balance.
You can't slam. You can't be angry at yourself if you bumped your toe somewhere. You know. That's what it is. These kids are really very loyal to me all the time, 24/7. I have to make a deal that after 5 o'clock, I want to have father and son time, and I don't want to have business time.
So how do you separate that?
I separate it. At 5:30, you call me, you say, Ta, how was your day? How was everything? Even though I talk to them for every like I say a joke. My phone starts at 7:30 a.m. and it's not off till 5:30, and it's on one line with them. And then at 5:30 I hang up, and then they call me, say, hi, Ta, how was your day? How was it going? And we only talk father and son time.
Shaya was smiling. I want to hear your opinion from a son, yeah?
It's actually very amazing. I mean, I could spend Shabbos, there's sometimes during the week that's hectic times. Deliveries have to go out, deadlines have to be met, customers requesting certain specs and certain items, and then we could go into Shabbos together, like we had this past weekend. I spent with my father. My father came to Tom's River for Shabbos, and it's almost as if like it's something else. It's like, I don't know, business doesn't exist.
You know what I wonder? Tell me if this makes sense. What I'm about to say. There's a certain beauty that clearly exists in a family business, right? There's a certain camaraderie shaft, right? That it clearly exists. I wonder if you notice. Tell me if you guys can say this to me. Do you wonder if any of your clients like dealing with you because of your family business? Like, hey, we care about people. Like, you ever notice that translates to business?
I don't think it has to do so much with the fact that it's a family business. I think our greatest strength is let's say if someone buys in one of these various other companies, there's no communication because there's so many levels,
within the company.
And here it's in a certain sense. I mean, obviously, I'm not in sales, so no one's calling me for sales, but someone that needs to turn over something because he's having an inspection, and someone needs to get in a good word to make sure that the warehouse manager switches around the truck. He knows that he can send me an email, and I'll probably make sure that it happens, which is an amazing thing. As far as what you were saying with, let's say, family roles in the company, I mean, again, everybody has to find their space. I found in the last couple of years, everybody slides into a complete separate role. And say my role is if I run the finances and the operations, I don't touch buying. I don't touch the presidency of the company. So there's no place that anything should clash because, I mean, especially if it's a smaller company, everything is the same. In a larger company, it's really very, very defined roles. Finance doesn't deal with purchasing doesn't deal with logistics doesn't deal with sales. Everything.
If you notice, all three are like square type of glasses, so you should connect the mishpacha. It must be a thing. But let me ask you, you come to OGBA for, how many years are you here for?
2 years.
So, hold the mic here.
A couple of years.
And have you ever actually found that you've gotten new partners, new business from coming to such an event?
Yeah, Baruch Hashem, every year my business grows from this event.
Really? Explain that to me. I want to hear how that works.
I have people that when I would call them for sales and we want to do business with them, they big contractors. They're huge, they're very big, they're large, they're the biggest around.
For sure.
Okay? and you can't deal with them. You can't see them. You can't talk to them. You can't define who they are, who's in charge, who's not in charge. And when we see him over here, comes in, it's a regular eye-to-eye guy, and we introduce ourselves. Says, you know what? Send my office an email. Send him a credit app. You know, I'm doing a good job, not too far from you guys. Let me try you out next job. And that's how
you touched on a point I wanted to ask you about. You know, one of the big things in the industry, I could say most people are very happy with where they are. Shalom Aleinashi, I have my same contract, my same provider. Even though he's bad, I've dealt with him for 6 years. Please.
So I'll tell you.
Yeah, I don't. You know any questions? Because it's obvious.
Everybody said we get that response all the time. I mean, I'm not in sales, but my sales reps get it all the time. Like, why should I come to you? And I'll tell you.
Why should I even try you? Forget about
so now, you know, I
heard you. That's a more major question.
I heard you say in the other interview, the guy's like, what was your hard times? Now, one of my philosophies since I joined my father's company is that there's no such thing as a hard time. Everything's opportunity, and you just have to twist the opportunity to your benefit. So I'll give you an example. The last 2 years, the supply chain issues, which I'm sure you heard about.
Of course, they blame it on the lumber industry, yeah?
No, they're not blaming it on the lumber industry. The lumber industry is blaming it on the Biden presidency, but whatever the case is, they're struggling. The lumber was struggling, the metal was struggling, the sheetrock was struggling. Every 4 or 5 of the major components in every single project, there were issues. At different times, different things, right? You know? So one of our missions is, I mean, obviously we have amazing buying power, but we're also very, very aggressive. We have very aggressive buyers and buying channels, and I would also chalk it up to having very, very good relationships with our buyers. You know, certain people that I'm sure that you deal with.
Vendors.
They're vendors, that's what I meant.
Let's focus on the answer. How are you getting a new guy to try?
Very good. So in the last 2 years, we've seen it clearly, but that's also our model. We're like, you're struggling, and you need help finishing your project. Your regular vendor, he might care about you, he might not care about you. Even if you spend $1 million, maybe someone spends $2 million. We treat all our customers, it doesn't make a difference if he spends by me $10,000 a year or $10 million a year. They're on the exact equal footing.
But how are you getting that guy to try you for the first time?
Because these people are going through, because they're going through.
Answer that question.
They're going through. Everybody in this industry is struggling on one product or another with supply chain issues, and I provide that supply.
That I think is the answer. The answer is often in sales is that like, let me help you with one product, right? And then once I get with one product, I'm just curious because you're sitting. I want to ask you a personal question.
Sure.
The Tata. There's always difficult days in business. It's obvious, right? When I have a difficult day in my business, you know, as a guy, when I come at the end of the day, I probably won't tell my wife. I probably won't tell my kids. I'll let it out. But like, you can't hide it for your kids, right?
I had a very tough kid. I had a very tough day this week. I don't call it a tough day. I call it a challenging day.
Fine, but like you're vulnerable. Your kids are seeing it.
Exactly.
How do you hide
So my
it?
kids ask me this.
Tati has to be Tati.
They say Monday. They tell me, "Listen, Tati, how do you do this?" And you make like nothing happen, like as if it is. So I said to them, because the loss of a business is pachad. When you're afraid, when you're exhausted, that's when you lose. So stay focused, and you have an end goal. What's your end goal? Your end goal is that we got to make it over here. So whatever it takes, we're gonna.
No, I agree. But I'm saying it's very beautiful to work with your children, but there's a vulnerability that you have that most people don't have. Like, if you quote unquote losing it, your kids
anybody that knows me, I'm that jolly bally type of a guy. So even though when it comes, I have a sunroof in my car, I get a little sun, and that makes me look like I'm going through that day. Like, whoa, where were you?
You don't find it hard? Like you can't be vulnerable for your kids?
No, I don't see it hard, and I give them chizik that they should come in on this trunk.
And my philosophy in business is that even if you have a stressful day, it doesn't make a difference. You have to learn from this day what happened wrong today and not do the same thing tomorrow. Or if anything that happens, if it's a bad employee.
So you're saying Emes Lamita, but the reason I always ask the question, what if it's Shas Maisa? You know,
it's true. So in our industry, again, there's every industry has its own type, especially in the lumber industry. It's a very hectic industry because there's deadlines that need to be met, deliveries that need to be sent out. There's trucking.
The nature of it is that everybody screams and yells.
There's drivers that don't show up. It's flu season, right? Hashem should help further, but there's drivers that don't show up, warehouse workers that don't show up. There's a lot happening. It is what it is. You cannot get stressed out, because if you get stressed out, you burnt out day one. So it is what it is. If you did your 100%, and again, we're talking about a good structure, 100%, then you're good to go.
Listen, I love you guys, the B'Shmaga family. You want to say something, Shaya? You wanted to say something?
Regarding touching the topic of, you were saying, do people appreciate, let's say, working with family? We've had more than one time, there's many vendors that come in and they feel right away, they're like, there's some energy here.
100%.
With the whole family sitting by a meeting
It's
together.
a certain trust factor. That's like, I'm dealing with one, I'm dealing with one. You mess up, you all mess up.
It's also the way when you work with family is that there's no such a thing as no one plays a role as like, oh, this is not my job.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
When you're in family, right, everyone covers for the other person whenever you need.
So my message is, for all people listening over here, is that we are, Baruch Hashem, a third generation lumberyard with a state-of-the-art equipment to deliver to all your job sites. And if you give me I always say that, if you give me a size of an order to fill a football field is, I only need 24 hours to fill it.
Very good. Chazak Baruch.
Thank you very much.
I'm Yisrael Chai.
Here we go.